Ability. Huh? Yeah. If you build a pond right, you'll never have to worry about raccoons. Yeah, that's why you'll see big, huge fish in my pond. I've got probably 80 fish in my pond, big, huge, giant things. So anyway, I'm Mike Garcia. I'm a sustainability expert, and I'm just doing these things just to make a difference and to show people that they can get inspired
just grab me
to
a
number
chair.
one,
Sorry.
save water, have a beautiful landscape, and then number two, to inspire healthy living within our community. Anybody have any questions from what they've seen so far today?
About the standing garden that
the vertical gardens?
Yeah, the vertical garden that you improved on.
Right.
How often do you replenish water based on evaporation?
You know, in the winter time, I'll fill it up maybe every 2 months. And in the summertime, if it gets really hot, it's July or August, I may be filling up once a week or once every 2 weeks. I have a koi pond over here, and so we figured out that when we built koi ponds, the koi pond industry, it's always got, you're going to have some evaporation, but you don't want to be there with a hose every week. So we figured out, well, the pond industry figured out how to put an automatic water fill, sort of like a swimming pool. You ever notice, some people, if they've broken automatic water fill, they got to get the hose out, but that's no fun. So, even your toilet has a float, and then, the water, it goes up. So they have the same thing for pond. So I even figured out how to put an automatic water fill on those guys. So it's just a continuous system. Yeah. So anyway, I used to have what we're standing on and sitting on here. This used to be one of America's first natural swimming pools. And it used plants as a filtration. In fact, I have a video of it where we actually had a natural swimming pool here. And it used a little tiny bit of electricity, but no chemicals. It was great. It was pure. It was clear. Now, about 5 years ago, I tore that. Well, I didn't tear it out. I left it. I filled it with tanks underneath here. And when it rains, I actually have the rain go into the tanks, and I can trap about 5,000 gallons of rainwater. Yeah. Oh, I have a tiny little pump over here, so when I need it, I pull it out and I run it through drip irrigation. So, I have so much to tell you. There's just so much. Now, does anybody know what sustainability is? Sustainability. That's a big word. Oh my goodness. I'm sorry. Sustain. Yeah. Well, here's my definition. Sustainability is living today without borrowing from tomorrow. Okay. And so it's taking care of planet Earth, and one of the biggest challenges that's facing us in our century is the drought. And does anybody know how much water gets imported into Southern California every day? Does anybody know put a number to that? Want to take a guess? It's a lot. And 1.5 billion gallons of water. Billion would be 1.5. How does it reach here? It comes through pumping system. Out of all the electricity, when you think of all the Edison plants that exist here in Southern California, you know how much electricity is consumed? It's a lot. But you know what the biggest consumer of electricity is? Who it is in Southern California? It's the pumps that bring water to our faucets. Almost 20% of the electricity that's manufactured is used to bring water to our faucets. So when you waste water, you're wasting energy too. Some of the statistics are that it's pretty grim. Does anybody know what the biggest reservoir is for water in California? Some say Lake Kachuma. Huh? Well, you would think. Actually, for us, it's the mountains. It's a snow cap because snow lands and it slowly trickles down. The rains we had about a month ago when it rained really, really hard, one of the few times, so we remember because it doesn't rain that much here. That rain, they estimated, dropped about 10 trillion gallons of water. Where did it all go?
How come they don't install a way that instead of having the LA River in a lot of places all cemented in, why don't they trap that water? Just like you have the trap right here in the underground.
Yeah.
You have blocking out the water, and they'll be conserved for whenever.
You know what?
It's
That's
really
called sustainability. lived for the last 100 years in LA, we've lived unsustainably. They paved roads, and so that when the rain falls, it goes right out to the ocean. So 10 trillion gallons, that would have gotten us out of a drought in a heartbeat. But everything's been paved over. So now what they're recommending is that you landscape in a way that's going to, number one, trap the water, or number two, at least have groundwater recharge. Does anybody know where 65 to 70% of the fresh fruits and vegetables for the nation comes from?
California.
California, baby. Central California. You know who's hardest hit with the drought? California. At Bombs last week, a head of cauliflower, $6. Why do you think that is? Why are food prices spiking?
How come instead of I know that oil is very important, for this country. Instead now they're thinking about building a big oil line from someplace.
Right.
Okay. Why don't they have the same thing about water from the East Coast? I mean, over there they're flooding. build a big giant pipe and have it pumped over. It's gonna be feasible.
The best.
This is a United Nation. They should be. Each state should be helping the other.
They should. But you know what? Our best source of water is conservation. Our best source of water right now is conservation. We have to think about right now.
There's so much wasted too here.
It
People
is.
are Rancho Mirage and all these other expensive golf courses. There's nobody around, but man, they got this plush lawns all over the place.
Right. So LA is
They
paying.
waste so much water.
Yeah, LA is encouraging people to take lawns out, water loving lawns, and they're encouraging them to put drought tolerant things in. Drip irrigation, for example, is a big way that you can save a lot of money on water. And once it's established, I'll tell you one of the big things. Because I'm a professional, I'm in the industry. I have HOAs, homeowners associations in Los Angeles call me. Big giant native trees that have been around for 100 years, and they're dying. They're half dead. The reason why is, where does a tree get its water from? It's not. It might even be in grass, and you might water it, but the grass water only goes down that far. If it's a giant tree, it goes down. Now, when it rains, it typically rains. If it rains 2 or 3 days, that rain's pounding the soil, and it's going to go down many, many feet. That's how it gets its rain. When's the last time our big trees have gotten water? Yeah, yeah. See, So what happens is we have these trees in LA that haven't gotten water in a long time, so they're half dead. So I'm telling people, I said, you know what, put a drip irrigation system in, or at the very least, put a hose to it and then let it drip for 12 hours. And then one homeowners association told me, well, we have a sidewalk there, we can't put a. I said, go to Home Depot, get a trash can, put a few holes in the bottom and fill it up. And fill it up every day and let it just slowly drip. But you're going to see a lot of trees are going to be dying. I see it every day because it's what I do. But I think what's going to happen is the drip irrigation is going to be a big thing. And then also 40% of America grew their own food during World War II. Now it's 1% and they're corporately controlled. The question came up about GMOs. Let me say a few words about GMOs. Has everybody heard of GMOs? I mean, it was on the California ballot the last time. Okay, what happens is, it's the idea, the concept of GMOs is actually a great concept. Like if you're a farmer and you plant rows of corn, what happens is you put seeds down and you also put fertilizer down. Okay, well you have to have a path to maintain the corn for the big machinery to want to harvest it. Problem is, if you have one dandelion and those little seeds will travel for miles, and they land in your corn, guess what? They grow a lot bigger and faster and better than your corn. So you're constantly out there having to pull weeds. That's a labor cost. And so what do? You think, well, I know, I'll get smart. I'll use Roundup. And so you start spraying Roundup on it, and it gets on your corn, and then there go your corn, there go your crop. Okay, and Roundup, by the way, does kill the soil biology, the stuff that's in the soil food web. It does kill. So if you're going to use it, be very selective, but I would use it sparingly if you're going to use it. Anyway, so what happens is the scientists, genetic scientists, came up with this idea that if they insert a certain bacteria and they basically change the genes in the corn, they can actually make this corn that when they crop dust an entire area with Roundup, it'll hit the corn, but the corn won't die. But the weeds will die. Great concept. The only problem is that they released GMO foods about 20 years ago. Since then, we've had the health scientists who study the diseases in the human population have found that every year, they had it down to science how many Americans would come down with cancer, heart disease, diabetes, and so on. I mean, they had it down to science. 20 years ago, when the GMO foods got released, it started skyrocketing. And there were no long-term studies done. I'm sorry?
The cancer scare.
Oh, yeah, big time.
Okay.
Big time. And so what has happened is people have found that there were no long-term studies, and so they've done studies on mice and rats and animals that are kind of like people. And they've been finding, especially the young mice, young rats, and other lab animals, heart disease, cancers, especially incidences of cancers come up. And who's heard of autism? How many kids are coming down with it? You think it's diet related? So 40% of Americans grew their own food World War II. Now it's 1%. It's corporately controlled. Guess who makes the genetically modified seeds? It's a company named Monsanto. Guess who makes the spray, the herbicide? It's Monsanto, Roundup. Okay, so so I'm not anti-Monsanto, but I'm just saying there's a lot of fingers pointing. But I'm saying, you know what? Do you just roll over and die, or can we do something about it? And so that's why I've tried to create food systems, what I call a backyard farmers market, so that people can actually start growing their own food, recycle water, and start taking back control of our lives. And then I happen to be an expert landscaper, 30 plus years, so I have an expertise in building koi ponds. So if you have any questions, or even if you're not here to look at the backyard farmers market, at least ask me questions on, I have chickens in the back, so if you want chicken keeping, I've got more aeroponic systems. A little bit about the aeroponic systems. This is rainwater harvesting, what you're standing on. So I harvest rainwater, that's rainwater harvesting. I've also got solar power on the garage, so that's so people say, well, gee, you suck a lot of electricity. Not really, because we're harnessing the sun. We harvest rainwater, we harness the sun. Also, I've got celery and chard growing in my koi pond. So I've got some huge koi, it's about a 5-foot pond, and so I've got food growing in it because fish release ammonia, which is fertilizer, and so the little roots grow down, they nibble on them, so they get a little bit, and also give them a little bit of cover too. But if you have any questions on waterfalls, now the waterfalls in the front are called pondless waterfalls. There's no pond. It's kind of like magic. They look like what you find at Disneyland. Actually, Disney World does have pondless waterfalls. But I figured that would be safe for the front yard. You imagine, kids. Yeah. And then this is an actual pond, and I've got a lot of native drought-tolerant plants that just look pretty. Most of the stuff I have here, if it needed water, it probably wouldn't live. So, except for the vegetables, and then that recycles water. Anybody have any questions?
What are your utility bills?
My electric bill's about under $50 a month. Yeah. With all these pumps, it's about, because I manufacture a lot of solar. Yeah. And water bill is probably about less than $100 a month, but it's gone up. And I've got boy, I could talk to you for hours on it, because I actually give seminars on that too. But suffice it to say that we've already gone to tiered scale. The more you use, remember the old days? Buying water your water bill was like Costco. You buy in bulk and they give you a cheaper price. Now they flipped that, and it's actually the more you use, the more you pay. So eventually we can see where it's going to cost $5 to take a shower. I mean, it's getting ridiculous.
No more shower. What are the vegetables in the pond growing on? What's that thing called?
Oh, it's a pond filter mat. There used to be a company that you could get those from, but it doesn't exist anymore. So there's this, in the pond world, you can actually buy pond filter mat. You can get it online. And then there's something called pond foam. So what I did was I put pond filter mat at the bottom. I sprayed some pond foam. Instead of concrete, we use pond foam. So if you're looking to get some, and then I sandwiched it. I put pond mat filter mat on top, and then you can put little cutouts into it. That's why the celery, for example. I mean, look at how lush and green that is, and it's like, boy, the perfect irrigation system. Fish and fertilizer too. Never have to worry about watering or fertilizing. It's just beautiful. And I have people here, yoga people, who just absolutely love the pond because they can, meditate in front of it. And then they'll chop some celery. And, also too, I just want to encourage everybody to think that there's hydrogenated fats, trans fats and oils. Boy, keep away from those. They're in foods that we eat, the processed foods. And so the stuff we have here is a lot of health food. In fact, even the chocolate is healthy. There's a vegan chocolate that's cold pressed. In fact, does anybody want to know what the highest antioxidant food is in the world? Cold pressed Belgian chocolate. And so we've got some of that here. And so we've got fruits and vegetables are high in antioxidants if they're organic. And you dip chocolate into it, and it's actually a healthy treat. Now, my life isn't just about being 100% about health. You're going to zag it. So I say, if you're going to do it 90% of the time, then make it worth your while. So I have a friend over here. She sitting behind her desk, cat Buzz Cake. Yep. And so if you're going to zag, then you know what? Zag and then make it something that's going to just be. I'd rather have a Buzz Cake than a McDonald's French fry. Besides, by the way, how many? If you're going to make French fries, how many ingredients would you use in a French fry? Two, yeah. The grease, whatever it is, and then the potato, right? Does anybody would take a guess how many ingredients are in McDonald's French fry? One. Oh, almost 19. Yeah, look it up online. Look it up online. So, and then also too, it's online. It's amazing.
I ask a question.
Sure.
Could we go back a little bit
Yeah.
about when we were talking about the trees dying? Because you might be interested. I have 2 trees. One of them is, and I don't know the name of it. I wish you had it here, and I keep looking. My mom started years ago. Anyway, it's a perennial, and it has berries. It's all beautiful. I love this tree. I never do anything to hardly even water it. And it's just, it's one of the yes. I love that tree.
What kind?
But I don't do anything to it. And my Chinese willow is that's really good. Same thing. Although I think it's
Yeah.
I'm just wondering.
Oh, maybe mulberries?
I wondered myself.
Yeah, probably
where are
mulberries.
they getting the water? I talked to you. I talked to my. Where are they getting the water? Really? So I'm wondering how are they sustaining themselves?
Okay.
I'm doing nothing.
Okay, underneath the ground, there's something called the soil food web. It is amazing. And what happens is if you work with Mother Nature, you'll find that Mother Nature will reward you like you can't imagine. I'll tell you what's going on right now. I'll give you a human illustration. Okay, if for some reason you had to have your mouth wired shut, for whatever reason, and you had to eat. How do they feed you if you're not in a coma for a month? Through the veins. Okay, so can you imagine being fed through the veins, and then coach said, let's say you're awake though, and the coach says, okay, you're going to run a marathon. That's going to be pretty challenging, isn't it? I mean, you're just barely subsisting on just what you need. Okay. If you're going to run a marathon, I've ran in the old days. I ran over 50 marathons. It was just something I like to do in the old days running. You know the feeling, right? Okay. So what happens is, if you're going to run a marathon, you're going to need to eat a lot of nutritious food and so on. And so there's something underneath the ground called the soil food web. And so look it up someday, soil food web. If you feed your soil will feed your plants, and that's going to make them really healthy. If it's a big tree. For example, there's something called mycorrhiza, and I don't expect you to understand that, but it's a fungus in the soil that actually helps to, it makes plants, it helps plants to survive drought like what we're having now. Now here's the problem. If you strip away, I'll give you a real life example too. You have a big tree and you plant grass around it, okay? And then the gardener fertilizes and then what sucks up the fertilizer? It's the grass. And what does the gardener do every week? He cuts it, this, this grass that's filled with nutrients. He cuts it. So they send it away to the dump. So the dump is the healthiest place on the planet. Okay. And so what nutrition does a tree get? Well, not very little. So if a tree is not in grass, it's probably going to be a whole lot healthier. And if there's going to be a tree that is very well established, I would say right now, we just cut down a huge, gigantic trunk. It would take two of me to put my arms around it. Pine tree. It's about over 100 years old. Casualty of this recent drought because it didn't get the water till very, very late. I told them, start watering it, but it was a little too late. It was beyond that point of return, no return. So I would say if you're going to do trees, look at trees, consider that the drought is really going to change things. 10 years ago, City Manhattan Beach had some eucalyptus trees. When you think of eucalyptus trees, you think, oh, it's the toughest tree on the planet. Does anybody remember about 10 years ago when left and right eucalyptus trees were dying in Manhattan Beach? Okay, I got called out in a few of those, and it turns out that in the Philippines, there's a bug that attacks the eucalyptus trees. Well, it came through LAX. I had never seen it. We sent it to the Smithsonian, and they figured it out that it was this thing called the Silidler. And it was decimating eucalyptus trees, and it had no natural enemies. So they had to go to Australia to find a wasp that they could release. And so finally, the wasp finally do that. But there's things like that you have to consider. So our big thing now is not so much the one particular bug, but it's this drought that we're going through. And so as a society, how are we going to live? What are we going to do to survive this? And you know what? I'll tell you something else too. When you do, I'm also a certified health coach, so I've learned a lot about health and nutrition. Here's the interesting thing, is if you've found that there's foods out there, well, let me simplify this. You read all the magazines, the glamour magazines, and people want you to be, or people want to be skinny. I don't think that's a good goal. The reason why, it's not sustainable. I met this doctor, a man by the name of Dr. Bill Sears, and he came out with this idea. He said, you know what, Mike, it's not about skinny, it's about being lean. And lean is an acronym. It stands for lifestyle, exercise, attitude, and nutrition. Lifestyle, exercise. He said, that's your goal. Skinny, no, it's not sustainable. The only sustainable health lifestyle is to be lean. So that's why I said we've got over here, we've got the lean foods over here, stuff that's really healthy. But I'll describe too a little bit about what we have. We have kale salad with a great low-calorie dressing. It's got kale. It's got the dressing is garlic, lemon juice, a little olive oil. Forgot one other ingredient. Okay. Does anybody like chocolate chip cookies? Okay. Is there such a thing as a healthy chocolate chip cookie? Okay. Let me tell you how. And it takes several hours to make, but we made them and they're here. Okay. And we use that vegan chocolate, that healthy chocolate. Okay. So what we did was, does anybody here drink almond milk? Okay. Now the stuff you buy at the store, loaded with sugar. It's probably better than the conventional milk that's loaded with sugar. So what happens is, here's how you make your own almond milk. You take 1 cup of raw almonds that you've soaked overnight, and then 3 cups of water. You put them in a Vitamix, grind them like crazy, and then you strain them out. Then you made some really high protein milk, so to speak. Well, what do you do with the pulp? Well, that's Nugget. Nugget is the friendliest chicken. I'll be sitting over there and she'll come up to me and she'll just be hanging out. So I love Nugget. She'll get on my shoulder. She'll fly. Yeah, she's special.
I had one like that.
Oh, she looks like a pigeon.
It's a Malaysian.
Yeah.
It's a Malaysian chicken.
Yeah. Looks like a pigeon though, doesn't it? Yeah. And so, so anyway, so the almond milk. So here's what you do: is you strain it out, and then you've got almond milk. So instead of regular milk, you drink the almond milk, and it's just really great. Oh, let's get some chairs. Oh, go ahead and pull some chairs over. Okay, so what happens is, what do you do with the pulp of that almond milk? What do you do with the almond pulp? Well, what you can do is you can form it into like little cookies, and then you put some chocolate chips from that healthy chocolate, and you've got a healthy chocolate chip cookie. I mean, that's really high in no, you know, practically no sugar, and it's not the artificial sugar. It just tastes really good. And then on top of that, you've got the chocolate. Okay, and then here's a little thing about cooking too. There's a machine over there I wanted to introduce everybody to. It's a dehydration machine. When you typically make cookies, you cook them. Now what happens when you cook food? You typically cook all the nutrients out. So there's a machine, it's in the corner, and it's a black box, and it's on right now. It's called a dehydrator. What happens is you can actually take this kale or chard, and you can actually, or the cookies, and you can put it in there. It sucks the air out, and it makes it kind of hard like a cookie. So it actually gives you the illusion that you're eating a cookie, but it's actually healthy for you. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Yeah, okay. So that's what I'm talking about. So that's what I'm saying. Now, you know, has anybody here ever been to a Tony Robbins event? Everybody knows who he is, right? He's been on Channel 4 and stuff. He's about 6'9". I met the guy. Well, what got me on this whole track about healthy living was about 10 years ago. I went to one of his events, and he asked the question. He says, "What do you do?" He says, Tony Robbins says, "What do you do if you want to have?" You know, what's the most important thing in your life? And the most important thing is, if you don't have your health, how can you enjoy anything else, right? Okay, so if you don't take care of the body you have, where else are you going to live? And so that's what brought me on this quest. And I thought, I'm not just going to keep this for myself, I'm going to share it with everybody. So whether it's sustainable outdoors, water conservation, healthy chocolate chip cookies, I mean, it doesn't get any better than that. And then Tony Robbins was like this really health maniac at one point, and he, you know, nothing bad would cross his lips, and then he got married. and well, right after they got married, not too long after the honeymoon, she said, "Honey, pull over here." And it was at, I don't know, Baskin Robbins or something. He says, "What are we doing?" She said, "We're going in, we're going to be human." And so she taught him, and so that's what I said. So when I thought about the bus cakes, I thought, you know what? If you get 90% of your diet that's just amazing, you're gonna if that 10%, then let it be something decadent that's just gonna taste amazing. And so my decadence of choice is the buzz cake. So, or cake buzz, excuse me. So yeah, the cake buzz. So I just love it. But otherwise, I'm pretty healthy. I exercise. What do I do for exercise in the mornings? Every morning I get on that miniature trampoline. I'll do that for about 5 or 10 minutes. I'll either run or power walk. At my age, I'll be 55 in a few months. So I power walk or I do weights. I do that every alternate. But I think diet is just such a huge part of you know. I like they say, if you don't take care of the body's health, where else are you going to live? So. Anyway, but I'll be around. Feel free to go visit the girls in the back, and I can, you know, feel free to take pictures, just get inspired, and okay.
Mike, I have a question.
Sure.
If you were going to say, for instance, replace your lawn with native plants, is there a formula for a price per square foot on average?
Okay, good question that has come up. What's a price per square footage? Okay, if you're going to replace your lawn, and let's say you wanted lawn because you have kids or dogs, and you want to replace your lawn with another lawn. They actually have a native lawn that you don't have to mow, and I charge $5 a square foot to install it, and if drip irrigation is anywhere from $4 to $5 a square foot. So it's about $10 a square foot to replace a lawn with a low water usage lawn. Synthetic turf is about $10 a square foot too.
But if you wanted to go native plants, remove the grass.
That's a very hard question because number one, you've got there's a company out there. I should mention this too. There's a company I won't mention who they are, but what they do is the city of Los Angeles will actually take out, well, they'll actually give you money, $3 to $4 a square foot to take out lawn. Okay, okay. So the problem is, and in fact, Emily Green, who was the garden writer for LA Times, actually is writing a series of articles, a blog right now, and she asked the question, and she actually mentioned this company by name, but what they're doing is this company out there says, look, we'll take out your lawn, we'll landscape your place for free. Basically, you give us your rebate money and we'll landscape your place. So what they're doing is they're taking out the lawn and they're putting a bunch of gravel down and just putting a couple of plants. And if you've ever driven through Arizona or the Mojave Desert, it's not really exciting out there. And I don't think that's doing us a service. I don't think it's good for the bugs. I don't think it's good for the for the little creatures, the birds and the butterflies. And so there's got to be a better way. And so right now, currently, it's on Emily Green's website about what to look for in the design process. But typically, a designer would have. How do you like your hair done? Do you want it shaved? Do you want a mohawk? You got to meet with somebody. And that, on my website, by the way, Facebook, my personal website, I'd encourage anybody, if you're interested in landscape stuff, go on it. I've got over 15,000 photos on Facebook of California native gardens, drought tolerant gardens, and so on. And then on YouTube, I've made over 1,000 YouTube videos on water conservation landscapes and food landscapes too, foodscaping or farmscaping, whatever you want to call it. So, good question. Thanks, Jay. Any other questions? Anybody have any more questions for me? Questions about chickens, or we can disperse and then we can go get food and then we can kind of go. I can reach out the back and we can talk about the chickens. Or I've got another aquaponic system in the back you can see. So anyway, well, thanks for coming this month. This is great. I really appreciate everybody coming.